Hi everyone, welcome to another episode of the SharePoint Sideshow. Today I have Girish and Todd with me today, and we're going to talk about the new Azure and SharePoint training kit that they've been working on. So where do I find this kit? Todd, maybe you can tell me, like, can I download this today? Is it available?
Sure. My name is Todd Baginski. I worked on the kit with Girish and Paul here, and I work for Aptalon. That's my company, and I'm a SharePoint Server MVP and had the pleasure to work on this kit with these guys. To go grab the kit, you can head out to MSDN, as you can see here on the screen, and on MSDN, if you look, you can see that you're able to browse the kit on the MSDN itself, or you can go here and download the training kit. So if we click the link to download the training kit, it takes us to this page here on the Download Center where we can go and put that kit on our local machine.
So I don't need to be online all the time to do the training kit. I can take it on a plane with me or be offline, or
that's right. You
take
can
it to the ski slopes with me.
Yeah, you can be on a ski lift and learn about SharePoint and Azure if you'd really like. After you download the kit, it looks like this here. You can see the local path here at the top in Internet Explorer. So it's all local here. I've got all the presentations, the hands-on labs, and all of the supplemental source code as well.
And it looks like the offline experience is great. And so once I download the kit and view it offline, what can I find? What can I expect to find in the kit? Like what should I learn out of the Azure kit?
You can find all kinds of different things in the kit. The kit is designed to help you ramp up on SharePoint 2010 and Azure development and how to do the two of them together. And you can see as the top here, the inventory of what you have in the kit. We have hands-on labs. There are several, one or more for each module that we walk through here, and you can see you can download them in HTML or Word format, as well as all the source code. Some of the other things we have inside of here is presentations, and these are all PowerPoint presentations, so if you want to get up and talk to other people about it and teach them about these topics so they can learn it.
So if I run a user group and want to show this to my user group, I can do that?
Certainly, that's a great way to
if you're doing
come
a
up
code
with some
camp
content.
in a user group, you could probably run through the hands-on labs in probably 6 to 8 hours and get through the end-to-end story of some of the scenarios you're working with SharePoint on Azure.
You certainly can. In the course of a day, you could have a whole SharePoint Azure talk all ready to go for somebody and not even have to develop any of the content yourself.
Good. So what am I going to learn in the kit? Like, where do I get started with the kit?
Well, to get started with the kit, a good way to go about it is to come through and look at the different presentations like we can see here. And as you go through the presentations, they'll give you an idea of what topic they're talking is being covered. Some diagrams in there to help you understand concepts and conceptualize things. And then as you go through each presentation, there's also demos built into there, and the demos correlate to the lab manuals that we have. So if you see you want to present that demo, you can do that, or you can walk through the lab manual and do the code yourself.
Good.
So Girish, what about the different presentations here and modules that we have? Give us a little overview of those.
Yeah, sure. I think from a scenario perspective, one of the common questions people ask is, hey, if I'm a SharePoint developer, tell me how can I use Windows Azure, which is this new cloud computing thing.
Yeah.
Or if I'm a Windows Azure developer and my customer asks, hey, I have to integrate with the SharePoint line of business that my customer has, how do you put them together? So the essential idea behind the training kit is to showcase some of the scenarios where developers can use SharePoint and Windows Azure together. So if you're a SharePoint developer and you do not know much about Windows Azure, the first module will give you a good introduction to some of the concepts and patterns that you need to be familiar with when you're using Windows Azure. And the other way around, if you're a Windows Azure developer and you need to learn more about SharePoint, I think the SharePoint introduction module is going to give you a good head start to understanding some of the SharePoint concepts. And as you go through, you can see there's a number of modules. Then we drill into the details on, how do these connection points work, and what are some of the connection points and some of the technicalities associated with it.
Yeah.
Because I know the getting started with the integration and the web services are some of your favorite ones. So do you want to briefly talk through some of them?
Sure. The getting started module is pretty simple. And this is the one where we cover how to use the out-of-the-box components of SharePoint, like BCS, to connect to data inside SQL Azure, for instance, and use external lists that displays SQL Azure data. It gets more complex when we get into the integrating Windows Azure Web Services with SharePoint 2010 module. This is probably my favorite module, as you mentioned. There's many different patterns we discuss in here. How to access Azure services, how to use .NET Service Bus to forward calls back through Azure to an on-premise. Also things in there about how to replicate timer job functionality inside of Windows Azure.
Which is great because with you mentioned the App Fabric Service Bus, which allows you to connect your on-premises SharePoint installations up to Azure. But some of the solutions, some of the hands-on lab code samples use the sandbox solutions, which means those would work with Office 365 and SharePoint Online as well.
That's certainly right, and that's one of the nice things about learning how to replicate a timer job inside of Azure, because in a hosted O365 environment, you don't have the ability to put that timer job and that full trust solution out there on the server. And so this shows you how you can make that happen and work around that part of O365 to get the same result.
Great. And we've also been seeing a trend in the industry where there's a lot more HTML5 and JavaScript development.
Certainly.
And that's got to be one of the topics that developers ask all the time.
Yeah.
So tell us about the jQuery module and give us a little bit of rundown of what it has.
The jQuery module's pretty nice. It shows you how you can use jQuery from within web parts inside of SharePoint, and they work inside of Sandbox Solutions. And then you can call out using jQuery to Windows Azure services and use them from there. So whether you want to call out from something in Silverlight or HTML, like we just talked about here, this kit really covers all the bases for you.
Great. Great. And, of course, there's always the thick client, so we have to talk about Office, because Office presents an interesting scenario where you can have this hybrid, thick client applications with SharePoint backend and some cloud. So can you talk a little bit about that?
Sure. In the module about the Office piece, this really shows you how you can do exactly what you just said. Just connect to Azure resources right from snap-ins that you write inside of your Office applications and pull Azure data in or pull SharePoint or both right into your Office app and use it to help you generate documents or presentations.
Exactly. So the next module that we have down here is the one about Bing Maps and using it with SQL Azure, because of course Azure has different components. There's the Windows Azure, which is the web hosting piece of it, but there's also the SQL in the database with the SQL Azure. And when you have things like your geospatial data up on SQL Azure, it's pretty compelling to create some dashboard kind of functionality, isn't it?
It certainly is, and in this module demonstrate how to use Silverlight along with the Bing Mapping Silverlight control and take data out of SQL Azure using business connectivity services that comes with SharePoint. So we use that as our pipeline to get the data out of SQL Azure into an external list in SharePoint, and then we use our Silverlight control for the Bing Maps to overlay that data that we get back through the external list right onto the map itself.
Excellent. And we also have the security model, as we can see, that talks about how do you secure services and your calls and data back and forth. So that's pretty much the end of modules that I see. Is that pretty much what you can do with SharePoint and Azure, or is there more?
It turns out there's a lot more you can do. This is a good start to it, and there are more modules, as you guys know, being developed for this kit right now. So it will grow in the future, especially the security piece of it. We expect to see a lot more things there as we go to ACS 2.0 with Azure in the future. But for right now, it's a really good kit to help you get dangerous, if you will, and understand what you need to do to build these type of solutions, and building on in the future here, it's going to be enhanced even more.
Exactly.
Yeah, I think this is really exciting. I mean, to bring together these two huge platforms, SharePoint and Azure, and really mash these applications up and let people build the right type of applications for their scenarios. And I think this is just a huge growth area for both SharePoint and Azure, and this kit is really the way to get started with that.
It certainly
Absolutely.
is.
Great. Well, thanks guys for coming. Thank you for enjoying another episode of the SharePoint Sideshow. And in the show notes, we'll have links to the kit and other information about building SharePoint and Azure applications. And again, thank you guys for coming.
Thanks, Paul. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.